The message came in silence. No booming announcements, no sudden warning lights flashing across Earth's skies. Just a soft, unassuming transmission, carrying with it the weight of a galactic decision. It was the kind of communication that could either change humanity's future forever or shatter it in an instant. A small, polished spacecraft dropped out of the heavens and into Earth's orbit, its sleek design unlike anything ever seen by human eyes. The world held its breath, waiting for the next move. But it wasn't the ship that froze every government official and military leader across the globe. It was the insignia emblazoned on its hull, the symbol of the Galactic Council. The apex of interstellar power, composed of countless alien species, had set its sights on Earth. For centuries, Earth had watched the stars, wondering what lay beyond its atmosphere. Humans had dreamt of distant worlds, of exploring the cosmos, and discovering civilizations far more advanced than their own. But those were fantasies, dreams far too grand to become reality. The Galactic Council, however, made those dreams seem trivial. They weren't simply dreamers, they were conquerors. When their emissaries arrived, they came with an air of unspoken authority. Their transmission was brief but clear. We offer you an opportunity. Join us, and you will thrive among the stars. Reject us, and you will perish. The message was delivered with chilling precision, devoid of emotion. As though to emphasize their power, the Council's envoy requested an immediate audience with Earth's highest leaders, a diplomatic meeting to discuss the future of humanity. The response from Earth was a mixture of awe, fear, and disbelief. No one had expected this. No one had even imagined that Earth was significant enough to be noticed by such a force. Governments scrambled for control of the situation. World leaders called for an emergency summit, but the message was clear. The Galactic Council was not interested in human opinion. They were giving humanity a choice they could not refuse. The Council's reach. The Galactic Council was not a union of peaceful allies, as some had assumed. It was a collection of the universe's most powerful species, each with its own agenda, its own code of dominance. And where there was power, there was always the threat of conquest. The Council's reputation stretched far across the stars, a reputation forged in the ashes of countless destroyed worlds. There were whispers of entire civilizations eradicated for daring to challenge their sovereignty, species wiped from existence for failing to submit. For all its scientific advancements and technological prowess, Earth was nothing in comparison to the hundreds of millennia of alien development that the Galactic Council embodied. Yet, for reasons unknown, Earth had become a focal point of their interest. To the Council, this wasn't an invitation, it was an ultimatum, a call to either submit or face the consequences. Despite their military might and unrivaled technology, the leaders of Earth were faced with a dilemma. The sheer arrogance in the transmission was evident. The Council wasn't here to form alliances or trade resources. They were here to incorporate humanity into their expanding empire, or to obliterate Earth if they refused. The ambassador's words were masked with pleasantries, but underneath was the undeniable message. Earth was a primitive, inconsequential species in the eyes of the Council, and this was humanity's one and only chance to either survive or become nothing. In the following days, military experts and diplomats worked tirelessly to decode the true meaning of the Council's arrival. Governments debated, with some proposing a diplomatic response, believing submission could bring prosperity, while others argued for defiance, sensing a deeper danger behind the veiled offer. Among the more vocal opposition were Earth's top military commanders, including General Isaac Hawke, a man known for his unflinching resolve and a mind sharp enough to recognize the threat beneath the surface. He immediately sensed that humanity's fate was being decided in the stars, an ultimatum that could bring both the rise or fall of Earth as a galactic power. Hawke began to rally his forces, preparing for a conflict the likes of which the world had never seen. But despite their strength, humanity was vastly outmatched by the Galactic Council's vast technological edge. The question lingered in the air: how could humanity resist a force that had never known defeat? And as the hours passed, the world waited with bated breath, the heavy weight of uncertainty pressing down on every nation, every individual, as the first wave of council delegates began their descent into Earth's atmosphere. The fate of the planet was hanging by a thread. As the council's envoy touched down on Earth, the sound of approaching footsteps echoed in the empty halls of power. This was no longer just a diplomatic negotiation. This was the beginning of a battle for survival. Earth's leaders had one final chance to make their stand before they were swallowed by the galaxy's greatest power. Earth had one chance to choose its future. But as the Council's emissaries prepared to make their demands known, the true cost of compliance began to reveal itself, and humanity was about to learn the price of submission. The meeting had been scheduled for the next morning, but Earth's leaders were already divided. The Galactic Council's invitation had arrived like a hammer to the chest, its weight suffocating the room. Governments convened across the globe in a frantic scramble, debating what to do with the unexpected guests. Diplomatic channels buzzed with urgency, each nation preparing for a momentous decision. The Council's ultimatum was simple: join their federation and prosper, or resist and perish. On the surface, the idea of galactic cooperation seemed an opportunity, an invitation to join the ranks of interstellar civilizations, to gain access to knowledge and technology beyond human comprehension. But in the days that followed, something unsettling began to unfold. Humanity had been underestimating the true nature of the Council. The overwhelming sense of politeness in the emissaries' words hid a cold truth that became undeniable with every passing hour. Earth wasn't being invited to join the intergalactic community. Earth was being measured for its worthiness, and the measure was deadly. To most of the world's leaders, the choice seemed simple. They could submit, align themselves with the Council, and gain the power to transcend Earth's limitations. Yet to those with a more calculating eye, particularly General Isaac Hawke, the invitation was a lie wrapped in polite packaging. The stakes were far higher than anyone realized. Hawke, who had spent his career leading operations in the most dangerous corners of the world, understood the true meaning behind the Council's words. He had seen enough of political games to recognize the subtext of manipulation. The Galactic Council wasn't offering humanity a chance at advancement. They were offering annihilation, masked as a pact of cooperation. In exchange for their acceptance, humanity would lose its sovereignty. The Council's power would inevitably crush Earth's independence, extinguishing any hope of a future beyond servitude. Hawke had spent days analyzing the historical patterns of the Council's past dealings with other civilizations, planetary after planetary, species after species, all subjected to the same fate. They were assimilated, often with horrific consequences. Civilizations, some of which were technologically superior to humanity, had vanished without a trace, erased from the galaxy. The more he dug into the reports, the more apparent the pattern became. The Council didn't simply unite civilizations. They destroyed them when they refused to comply. The decision was no longer about diplomacy. It was about survival. Hawke knew what had to be done. Earth needed to resist. But how could a planet, still bound by its limited resources and technology, stand against an empire that spanned entire galaxies? The moment he spoke up in the global summit, his words struck like a lightning bolt. We can't wait for a second round of talks. Their forces are already here. The very fact that they've come to us means we're already a target. If we stand down now, we'll never get a second chance. His words rang in the ears of the room, the urgency clear. A new secret division within Earth's military, tasked with preparing for the worst, had been quietly assembling for months. An elite unit focused on one singular goal: defending Earth from a power no one could comprehend. The division was a clandestine group led by Hawke himself, made up of humanity's best, brightest, and most battle-hardened soldiers. They were not just fighting for Earth's survival, they were fighting for Earth's freedom. As humanity's political leaders argued about whether to negotiate or fight, the military began quietly preparing for a strike. Information gathered by Earth's top intelligence officers painted a clear picture. The Galactic Council's fleet was massive, but not invincible. They had weaknesses, fissures within their system that could be exploited. Hawk ordered a covert operation to infiltrate a nearby Council communication station, intending to learn more about their military capabilities and potential vulnerabilities. His elite forces, moving under the radar, infiltrated Council-controlled space, bypassing patrols and navigating the advanced technology with precision. The mission was a success. However, as the team extracted critical intelligence, they uncovered an even more chilling truth. The Council had already marked Earth for eradication, regardless of whether humanity accepted their terms. The invitation was a facade to test Earth's response. They had come to Earth not as allies, but as conquerors. And if Earth rejected them, the Council's fleet would annihilate the planet without hesitation. Now, with this devastating knowledge, General Hawk knew the window for negotiation had closed. There would be no more time for diplomacy. The only remaining option was to stand up and fight. But as he prepared to inform the world's leaders, the gravity of the situation hit him. Earth's military forces, for all their ingenuity and resolve, were still woefully outmatched by the might of the Galactic Council. There was no room for error. If humanity wanted to survive, they would need to show the Council that they were not a species to be wiped out without consequence. The coming days would be a defining moment, one that would either see Earth rise to become a force the galaxy had never seen, or see it burn in the aftermath of defiance. As General Hawk prepared to confront the world with this dark truth, the first tremors of an incoming threat were felt. The Council's fleet, already moving into Earth's orbit, began to deploy its warships, silent, calculated, and relentless. The final decision had come. Would humanity dare to resist, or would Earth fall to the galaxy's most merciless empire? The Council's ships hovered in Earth's orbit like vultures, waiting for the planet to submit. But Earth wasn't going down without a fight. The time for diplomacy was over. Humanity was preparing for war. The first wave of the Galactic Council's fleet had arrived. Their ships were enormous, a mixture of sleek metal and alien technology beyond human comprehension. It was an intimidating sight, enough to make any sane person believe humanity had no chance. But General Isaac Hawke wasn't a sane man when it came to survival. He was a man who saw through the fog of fear, and right now he saw nothing but an opportunity. Earth's military had spent the last few days in total lockdown, pulling every available resource into a single, desperate initiative. But for all their planning, nothing could prepare them for the overwhelming scale of the Council's presence. Despite this, Hawk wasn't deterred. He knew something that the Council didn't. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival. It was fighting for its soul. The world's leaders had finally agreed on a course of action, one that set the stage for the coming conflict. The decision was simple. Earth would strike first. Not with full-scale warships, those would be obliterated in seconds, but with something far more dangerous, a weapon of surprise. A prototype starship, still in its experimental phase, had been rushed into production. A vessel capable of harnessing the raw power of human ingenuity, its sole purpose to serve as a message to the Council. The ship was a technological marvel, built from the ground up with a single goal in mind: survival. It was smaller than the Council's warships, but its design focused on speed and devastating firepower. Armed with energy cannons capable of piercing shields, it was humanity's first true weapon of offense. As the prototype ship roared to life in Earth's orbit, its launch was broadcast to the world. The message was clear: humanity would no longer cower. Earth's leaders had decided to show the Council that they were not to be taken lightly. But the ship was still untested, a gamble in the face of overwhelming odds. Hawk's team of elite soldiers, the Special Forces Unit, was tasked with carrying out the first operation. Their mission was simple: strike at a single vulnerable Council outpost, located just beyond Earth's moon. If successful, it would cripple the Council's communications, buying Earth precious time to prepare for the inevitable invasion. As the Special Forces Unit ascended into the void of space, tension ran high. They knew what was at stake: one failure, and the Council would use it as justification to destroy Earth. As the spacecraft approached the target, the crew went silent. This wasn't a mission to prove anything to the world. It was a mission to prove humanity's resolve to itself. The battle was quick but brutal. Despite being outmatched in terms of raw firepower, the humans fought with a ferocity the Council hadn't anticipated. Earth's soldiers, led by Hawk, outmaneuvered the enemy with precision, using the environment to their advantage. The outpost was taken by force, and the message was sent loud and clear across the galaxy. Humanity would not bend to the Council's will. But as the mission drew to a close, something unexpected happened. The Council's fleet, hidden from view, began to move. The operation had not gone unnoticed. The first signs of retaliation were already showing. Council warships, positioned just outside Earth's reach, began to deploy their advanced interceptors, ships capable of neutralizing any threats within their path. Hawk received the news as his team secured the outpost. The Council's response was swift, and it was lethal. Earth had made its first move, but the Council was already preparing its counterstrike. With the Council's fleet now mobilizing, Earth's forces had no time to savor their victory. The war had begun. Every minute would count as humanity faced an enemy unlike anything it had ever encountered. Would their newfound weapon be enough to turn the tide, or had they made a fatal mistake? The battle lines were drawn, but as Earth's forces braced for the Council's inevitable retaliation, General Hawk understood one thing clearly. Humanity's survival would depend on sending a message that the galaxy would never forget. The silence in Earth's command center was deafening, broken only by the faint hum of monitors tracking the movements of the Galactic Council's fleet. The first wave of Council warships had been decimated by humanity's surprise counterstrike, but it was only a temporary victory. The real battle was just beginning, and it would be fought not in the vacuum of space, but in the hearts and minds of every civilization in the galaxy. General Isaac Hawke stood before the massive display screen, eyes locked on the flashing red dots marking the positions of the Council's remaining forces. His mind raced, calculating the next steps. Earth had struck the first blow, but it had come with a price. The Council was not a foe to be underestimated. And now, they were coming for Earth with an anger that could obliterate entire worlds. "We need to do more than fight," Hawk muttered to himself. "We need to send a message." His words echoed in the war room. His staff, knowing the weight of the situation, nodded silently. They were at a crossroads. Humanity's survival depended on the next move. If they waited for the Council to retaliate, Earth would be reduced to rubble before they had a chance to react. The only option was to stand their ground and declare, once and for all, that humanity would not submit. But how? A message. A warning that would echo across the galaxy. A final irrevocable statement that would make the Council rethink their invasion plans. Hawk turned to his communications officer. "Prepare a broadcast," he said, his voice steady. "This is the most important message humanity will ever send." The officer hesitated for a moment, clearly understanding the gravity of Hawk's command. He nodded and began typing furiously, programming the transmission to broadcast across every known frequency, encrypted and unencrypted alike. Earth's leaders from every nation had agreed to this final ultimatum. It was a gamble, but they were out of options. As the transmission began to take shape, Hawk's thoughts drifted back to the days before the Council arrived, when Earth was still naive about its place in the universe. The idea of a single species, let alone one as young and fragmented as humanity, standing up to a galactic empire seemed impossible. But here they were. It was time to show the galaxy what Earth was made of. The transmission was brief but powerful. It was a simple message, direct and unambiguous. "This is Earth. You have come to us with an ultimatum. Join or die. We choose neither. We will defend our world. We will not submit, and we will not fall. We will fight for our freedom. We will fight for our future, and we will make you regret underestimating us." The words were cold, calculated, but full of purpose. Earth was no longer pleading for mercy. It wasn't begging for a place among the stars. It was warning the Council that the cost of conquest would not be paid without consequence. As the transmission went live, Hawk's eyes narrowed. The silence that followed was deafening. There was no immediate response from the Council, but he knew that they were listening. The universe would be listening. And then the response came, not in words, but in action. Within minutes, a massive shockwave rippled through space. The Council's fleet, previously hidden behind the moon, began to move in unison. Massive warships, each one larger than any ship humanity had ever conceived, emerged from their cloaking fields and powered toward Earth's orbit. Thousands of ships, each one brimming with advanced weaponry, closed in from all directions. "They're coming," an officer whispered, fear evident in his voice. But Hawk was resolute. This wasn't fear. It was resolve. Humanity's fate was now in motion, and there was no turning back. The Council ships spread out in a broad formation, cutting off any potential escape routes. They were overwhelming. But Earth had already decided what it would do: stand and fight, or face annihilation. In the command center, the preparations began. Earth's fleets, reinforced by the prototype starship and its fleet of smaller vessels, moved into position. The first wave of defense was ready, and Hawk felt the weight of responsibility settle firmly on his shoulders. The Council's message was clear. They were coming to wipe Earth out of existence. But Earth's message was even clearer. They were not going down without a fight. Hawk stared at the screen, his hands clenched into fists. His mind raced, calculating the best strategy. Earth's forces were outgunned, but they still had their humanity, their ingenuity, their resolve, their refusal to bend to an enemy that saw them as nothing more than an obstacle to be crushed. The countdown began. A message was a weapon, and Earth had just fired the first shot. But the battle was far from over. It had only just begun. As the Council's fleet advanced, the tension was palpable. The countdown to battle had begun, but Earth's leaders knew the fight would be unlike anything they had ever imagined. Would their warning be enough to make the Council hesitate, or would Earth's defiance trigger an irreversible war? The final decision rested on the edge of a knife. The roar of engines echoed through the vast expanse of space as Earth's forces braced for the inevitable clash. The Galactic Council wasn't here to negotiate anymore. They were here to annihilate. But humanity wasn't going to let that happen. The first salvo came without warning. It was the full weight of the Galactic Council's fury, delivered in an instant. The massive warships, their shields shimmering with lethal energy, unleashed a barrage of firepower that shook Earth's defenses to their core. The sky above turned into a canvas of light and destruction as Earth's fleet responded in kind. The battle for survival had begun. General Isaac Hawke stood at the heart of Earth's command center, watching as the battle unfolded on the massive display screen. The first wave of Council ships had engaged with Earth's forces, their weapons lighting up the darkness of space. Despite the overwhelming odds, Hawke's resolve remained unshaken. This was what they had prepared for. This was humanity's chance to prove it was not just a fledgling species waiting to be crushed. Status. Hawke barked, his eyes fixed on the chaos unfolding before him. Direct hit on the eastern defense grid, a technician reported, voice tight. Shields are holding, but we can't sustain this level of fire for long. Hawke nodded grimly. Earth's technology was impressive, but it was nothing compared to the Council's advanced weaponry. Yet, humanity had one advantage the Council never anticipated: unrelenting determination. It was the one thing the invaders couldn't quantify, couldn't predict. "Keep them off balance," Hawke ordered, his voice cutting through the tension. "Target their engines, not their shields. We need them to falter." The tactical units had already initiated the plan. Earth's forces, though outclassed in raw firepower, fought with the precision and tenacity that had always been humanity's greatest strength. It wasn't just about having better weapons. It was about using what they had to outmaneuver a larger, more powerful enemy. The space around Earth's orbit was a battleground of epic proportions. Human warships, sleek and nimble, darted in and out of a larger, lumbering Council ships. The smaller vessels, with their makeshift weapons and unpredictable maneuvers, were proving far more effective than the Council had anticipated. On Earth, the world held its breath as every nation watched the conflict unfold. Humanity's fate now hung in the balance. The Galactic Council, which had once believed Earth to be a mere speck in the cosmos, was beginning to see that their underestimation of humanity had been their gravest mistake. The first signs of Council disarray began to appear. A Council destroyer, badly damaged by a surprise hit to its engines, drifted aimlessly in space, leaving a gap in their formation. It was a small victory, but it sent a message. Earth was not backing down. They had taken the fight to the Council's doorstep, and the invaders were starting to feel it. But the Council was relentless. More warships arrived, filling the void above Earth with their looming presence. Earth's fleet, though valiantly holding their ground, was outnumbered. The first wave of fighters from the human forces had been decimated, and the remaining ships were running low on ammunition. Hawk's mind raced, calculating their dwindling options. The Council was too powerful to defeat in a straightforward engagement, but if they could just buy enough time, if they could keep the pressure on the invaders long enough, humanity might stand a chance. The battle wasn't about victory, it was about survival. Prepare the secondary weapon, Hawk ordered. We need to level the playing field. The secondary weapon had been a last resort measure, one that could shift the balance in humanity's favor. It wasn't fully tested, and its activation came with a high risk. But desperate times called for desperate measures. As Earth's forces struggled to hold their ground, a crackling energy built up on the planet's surface, drawing power from Earth's core. The new weapon, still in its infancy, hummed with power. Hawk had no illusions about the consequences. If the weapon failed, Earth's entire defense grid could collapse, leaving the planet vulnerable to a full-on assault. But if it worked— "Ready, sir," a technician said, eyes wide with anticipation. "Do it." A flash of light filled the screen, blinding and brilliant. The weapon activated, releasing an immense wave of energy that rippled outward, striking the Council fleet with terrifying force. The effect was immediate and devastating. Council warships, caught off guard by the sheer power, staggered under the attack. Shields flickered and began to fail, and several ships drifted into the void, their engines disabled. For the first time since the battle began, the Council was on the defensive. But Hawk knew better than to celebrate just yet. The Council would retaliate. They always did. The next wave would be their most brutal, and Earth's forces would have to dig deeper than ever before. As the Council reeled from the shock of Earth's newfound weapon, a chilling realization dawned. The worst was yet to come. The Council's fleet regrouped, its leaders preparing for their final assault. Humanity had bought itself a brief moment of hope, but at what cost? And would it be enough to withstand the true power of the Galactic Council's wrath? The battle for Earth had reached its breaking point. The Galactic Council's forces had pushed humanity to the edge of extinction, but humanity wasn't finished yet. Against all odds, Earth was preparing to deliver the final blow. The Galactic Council's relentless assault had ravaged Earth's defenses, but humanity's resolve had proven more durable than anyone could have predicted. What the Council didn't account for was the sheer tenacity of a species that had fought for survival on 1,000 battlegrounds, a species that had weathered destruction and risen from the ashes every time. General Isaac Hawke stood on the bridge of Earth's flagship, staring at the chaotic scene unfolding outside. The Council's warships, massive and imposing, filled the sky. Their assault was unrelenting, each strike a calculated move to wipe Earth off the galactic map. Yet, Earth had endured, its military battered but not broken. "Status," Hawke demanded, his voice cutting through the static of the battlefield. "Shields are at 30%, General," came the grim response. "Our forces are scattered, but the prototype weapon is online. We're ready to deploy when you give the word." The prototype weapon, humanity's last hope, had been Earth's trump card, a last-ditch effort to turn the tide of the war. It was a weapon of unprecedented power, designed to disrupt the Council's technological advantage. But using it came with a cost. If the weapon failed, it could obliterate everything in its path, including Earth itself. Hawke had no illusions. The Council's forces were too strong, too vast. But they had underestimated Earth's ingenuity. They had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt, to innovate, to find a way, when none seemed possible. "Activate it," Hawk ordered. The command echoed through the ship, and the entire vessel seemed to hum with anticipation. Outside, the sky darkened as the weapon powered up. A massive surge of energy coursed through Earth's defenses, the prototype weapon lighting up the battlefield like a second sun. The Council's ships staggered, their shields failing under the intense pressure of the energy pulse. For a moment, it felt as though time had stopped. The vast array of Council warships began to retreat, unable to withstand the shockwave. Humanity's weapon had struck true. But just as quickly as the hope surged, it began to fade. The Council regrouped. Their retaliation was swift, their desperation palpable. Their forces were not so easily defeated. The battle was far from over. "We've breached their shields," a technician reported. "They're scrambling to retaliate, but their fleet is in disarray. This is our chance." Hawk's mind raced. Earth had created the opening, but now they needed to exploit it before it was too late. He turned to his remaining fleet commanders, each one weary but resolute. "Prepare for the final assault," Hawk ordered. "This is our one shot. We either end this today or risk losing everything." Humanity's remaining ships, battered but intact, regrouped and launched their final offensive. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Earth's military fought with an intensity born of desperation, leveraging every advantage they had. Each strike, each maneuver, was designed to send a clear message to the Council. Humanity would never kneel. As Earth's forces closed in on the Council's flagship, Hawk's thoughts shifted to the future. If they succeeded today, Earth would rise as a new power in the galaxy, no longer a mere pawn, but a force to be reckoned with. The Council's reign would come to an end, and humanity would take its place among the stars. The final moments were a blur. Earth's forces surged forward, unleashing a coordinated barrage of energy blasts. The Council flagship, struggling to maintain its shields, faltered under the onslaught. A massive explosion erupted as the final blow struck, sending debris and wreckage scattering across the void. And then silence. The battlefield was littered with the wreckage of both fleets. The Council's forces, once invincible, were now scattered across the stars. Humanity had won. As Earth's leaders watched the aftermath unfold, a deep sense of relief washed over them. The Council's tyranny was no more. But even in victory, the future remained uncertain. Humanity had proven its strength, but the galaxy was vast, and Earth had only just begun to carve its place in it. General Hawk stood at the front of the command center, staring out at the stars. The battle was won, but the real work was just beginning. The galaxy had learned one thing today. Humanity was a force to be reckoned with. As the last of the Council's warships retreated into the depths of space, a new, unexpected message was broadcast across the galaxy. It was a warning, but this time it wasn't from a council. It was from an entirely different faction. And it was clear. Humanity's rise was only the beginning of a much larger struggle.